Good afternoon. The Finance Committee is called to order. Are there any members of the public who have registered to speak, Mr. Johnson?
We have two public speakers. First is Omar Vera. No. Keep it going. We have a second registered speaker, Murray Bowden.
Good afternoon. I want to wish you all a very healthy new year. I won't see you on Wednesday. I'm having cataract out. It's a pleasure to report that I've been working with the team from Bridge and Tunnels, and the progress has been extraordinary. They have solved problems that I've been talking about for years. The solutions are already on the ground. They work. And the only issue now is going forward is making it uniform throughout other areas of bridges and tunnels and other areas of the city of New York. And I've been working with the New York City DOT. They understand as well. So when I come and I ask for cooperation, cooperation has been forthcoming, and it is forthcoming as good as it was with bridges and tunnels. I might expect to be the same for the rest. So thank you very much for the opportunity to say hello.
Okay. Now we have Mr. Omar Vera.
Hello, MTA Finance Committee. Sorry for before. It was a little time distraction. Sorry. All right, this is my second time addressing this particular committee, and I'm here to talk a bit about the MTA public hearings regarding the fare and toll increase proposals. Like I said, it's not like I understand you're doing this every 2 years because in order to raise revenue because of tight budgets. But the truth of the matter is, I feel like this country has plenty of money. That's starters. But here's the thing: if you must raise the fare, you got to at least try to put better service on some of the sub agencies within the MTA. Like I recommended to Transit that they ought to extend the Astoria line to LaGuardia Airport, splitting the route in two, of course, rather than support this nonsense AirTrain proposal that would almost just not do anything good. Just not anything good. So that's why I'm like this. And by the way, the two main advocates of the public are here, right there. Mr. Andrew Albert and Ms. Veronica Vanterpool. They're watching everybody here. Second, I recommend to the MTA that in order to raise more revenue, they ought to retake the Long Island bus because the Nassau County Express has been a complete failure. And such a failure that of course the county executive who is in charge of Nassau County is currently under federal indictment for corruption charges, and he about half a decade ago refused to pay the MTA the needed money it takes to continue operating the bus system in his county. This is why it's time, if a new government comes in Nassau County, the MTA should renegotiate with them to bring back the Long Island bus. Because who knows, Veolia might get rid of the MetroCard altogether. Because the system isn't operated by us. It should be operated by us. If it's operated by us, that means it will be safe for all passengers who use MTA buses and subways to keep using Long Island bus. So that's recommendation. And also, I would like to recommend to support extending the 7 line to New Jersey, at least find enough funds for that, and have the government of New Jersey pay for it, as they've also been responsible with their own transit system. They need to be more responsible. With that, I conclude my statement, and I'll continue at CPOC. Thank you. Have a great day.
Does that conclude our public speakers?
Sir.
Then the minutes of our November 14th meeting are in your committee materials. May I have a motion to approve? Second, are there any changes, questions, or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? The minutes are approved. Mr. Johnson, could you please take us through the work plan?
In front of you, you have a draft of the proposed 2017 Finance Committee work plan. If any board members have any suggestions, please get back to us, and we can incorporate those into next month. So please feel free to do so.
Any questions or comments on that up to now? We'll have another crack at this in January, I presume. The next, Mr. Johnson, are the budget and capital cycle items.
Yeah, we have no budget watch presentation today. Later in the meeting, Bob Foran will be presenting for your review and approval the MTA 2017 budget and financial plan. And next month we'll be doing a flash budget watch. That'll be in January. So we do have a finance watch, and Pat McCoy is here to bring us through that.
Good afternoon. Finance Watch appears on page 18 of your committee materials today. We have 4 transactions upcoming in the month of January we just wanted to post you on. The first is new money bonds for TBTA projects. This will be the TBTA Series 2017A, approximately $300 million of new money, and we expect that will take care of their funding needs for the year. And this will be senior managed by Goldman Sachs & Co. Next, we have a $200 million Transportation Revenue Bond 2017A. This is a ban that's currently in the market. We need to pay off that ban. And this transaction will be led by Jeffries as Senior Book Running Manager. Next, we have our initial new money need for transit and commuter projects for the first part of the year. This will be $700 million of MTA Transportation Revenue Bond Anticipation Notes, and we'll issue those through a competitive bidding process. And those notes will mature later in the year when we'll issue long-term bonds to pay them off. And then lastly, we have a $100 million remarketing of MTA Transportation Revenue Variable Rate Refunding Bonds, Subseries 2002 D2A. And this is a floating rate note that just needs to be remarketed back into the market. And we've assigned that to Book Running Manager RBC Capital Markets. Lastly, we just have a fuel hedge that was executed on November 22nd, 2.9 million gallons of ULSD, and this was competitively bid. And as you can see there, Goldman Sachs J. Aaron won the bidding at a price of $1.66 per gallon, and the hedge covers the period November 17 through October of 2018. Happy to take any questions if there are any on Finance Watch.
Yeah, we have 6 action items today. The first item is the MTA and TBTA reimbursement for federal tax purposes. We're asking the board to approve the next reimbursement resolutions, which are required by federal tax law to preserve the ability to finance certain capital projects on a tax-exempt basis.
May I have a motion to approve? Second, are there any questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstaining?
Okay, we have several items that Pat McCoy, our finance director, is going to take us through.
Okay. The first one is the authorization to issue new money transportation revenue bond anticipation notes, transportation revenue bonds, and Triborough Bridge and Tunnel Authority general revenue and subordinate revenue bonds. This staff summary and the resolutions that follow start on page 31 of your committee materials. A total of $2.3 billion is requested for approval to finance existing approved capital program projects for transit, commuter, and bus to be executed in 2017. A total of $300 million is requested for approval of MTA Bridges and Tunnels bonds for existing approved bridge and tunnel projects. Note that the package behind the staff summary includes supplemental resolutions for transportation revenue, bond anticipation notes, bands, transportation revenue bonds, as well as bridges and tunnels general resolution bonds and bridges and tunnels subordinate resolution bonds. I would note that we have in the past always sought authority as well for the issuance of dedicated tax fund bonds, again, for those transit and commuter and bus projects. However, the DTF credit has little remaining capacity for new additional debt, and so we are not seeking DTF bonds for authorization. Just as a note, we're left with the Transportation Revenue Bond Credit as our principal credit vehicle to finance transit, commuter, and bus capital projects. This credit has $21 billion of debt outstanding on it, so it's very important that the MTA is able to access a new credit, such as the PMT or other credit, and that's high on our list of priorities for early next year. So that's happy to take questions on this staff summary.
Oh, let me have a motion first and a second. Second. Questions or comments?
For the new ban notes, was this already factored into the existing, or the approval of the existing capital program?
Yes.
Before it was
this factors in our assumed borrowing needs for the 15 to 19 program as well.
But is this just for 2017?
But this is just for our execution of deals that we'll need to do in 2017 to meet the cash flow requirements. That's correct.
So is this borrowing, and I know every capital program has a level of borrowing, are we on schedule at this point in the capital program for this level of borrowing? Or is this level of borrowing usually in the later years, for example, 18 and 19?
No, I'd say we're on schedule. The important thing to remember is that on a cash flow basis, a lot of these bond proceeds will actually be paying for projects that are in the 2010 to 2014 program, because those continue to cash flow, continue to spend. There might even be some, a tail of 2005 through 2009 projects that are just kind of finishing up. So it's a mix of really 3 capital programs that will consume these bond proceeds over the next year.
So the 2005, 9, 10, 14, 15, 19.
Yeah, and probably the 15 to 19 is probably the smaller portion of what will be consumed here. Again, we don't know exactly what invoices are going to hit. We estimate that our cash flow needs based on communication with the capital programs group, and this is what that analysis tells us we think we'll need. The bulk of this spending is really probably for cleaning up 10 to 14 projects that are still underway.
Thank you. What I'm really trying to understand, and I think you're helping me get there, is whether or not the MTA is in a position at this point for 2017 to take out new debt for $2.6 billion, even though we have an agreement for an $11 billion funding commitment from both the state and the city. And I want to make sure that the MTA, my question is around understanding whether the MTA is in a position at this point, because that has not been fully realized for the 2015-19 capital program.
Well, remember that the state and the city contribution for the 15 to 19 program, those are going to be the last dollars in. So the fact is we are going to be borrowing in advance of getting that money, before that money comes from the state and the city.
I do understand that.
Okay.
I just want to, given that the MTA has $37.1 billion in outstanding debt, which is noted here, I'm just want to make sure that this is already debt that's been included and improved, not additional, because, for example, for a more simple way of saying it, you all are falling short in the capital program in 17.
All of the projects that are underway and that will, again, where the proceeds will be used, these are all existing approved projects. I'm not quite sure I'm getting the
I would say that the debt that Pat is talking about has been anticipated in our financial plan for 15 through, or 16 through 20. We are on schedule. We are funding the projects as they come forward on a cash flow basis. So what you're seeing is nothing new and nothing that's going to put an additional burden on the fare box. This has already been built into our financial projections.
Okay.
You're welcome.
All right.
Is there anyone else? We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Abstaining. The item carries. Third item, Mr. McCoy.
Okay. This is staff summary starting on page 79 of your materials. This is authorization to issue transportation revenue refunding bonds, dedicated tax fund refunding bonds, and TBTA general, as well as subordinate refunding bonds. This resolution accompanies with it the board policy from May of 2010 that dictates when and how we can tackle refundings. There are minimum savings thresholds that the board has identified that we must achieve in order to undertake a refunding. And so following the board policy on refundings, you have the supplemental resolutions for each of the credits that I just mentioned. And this allows us to take advantage of market opportunities next year, should they present themselves, to refund bonds and generate savings for the budget.
On the fourth item, may I have a motion? Second. Are there any questions or comments on this? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? The item carries. Fourth item.
Okay. Next, in your materials on page 139 of your book, we have a staff summary describing approval of municipal, special, and swap advisors. Authorization is sought for approval of contracts with 4 firms to provide municipal and/or swap advisory services to the MTA. The request for approval significantly expands MTA's advisory team from 2 firms to 6 in total, and I'll go through that in more detail. But I just want the committee to understand that we work very hard to negotiate favorable terms to keep costs under control. The specific approvals requested are approval of a contract first with the advisory team of Public Resources Advisory Group, together with Backstrom, Macaulay, Barry & Co., which is a state certified MBE firm, and Rockfleet Financial Services, which is a state certified woman-owned firm. This team, referred to as the Prague team, will serve as MTA's general municipal advisor and will be identified as MTA's independent registered municipal advisor, or IRMA, in accordance with rules of the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board. Secondly, approval of a contract with Mohanty Gargiulo. Mohanty Gargiulo is a state-certified woman-owned and minority-owned firm to serve as MTA's swap advisor. Mohanty Gargiulo will also serve as MTA's Qualified Independent Representative, or QIR, with respect to all derivative matters, including fuel hedging. Next is approval of a contract with Acacia Financial, a state-certified woman-owned firm, to provide special advisory services focusing principally on rating agency and investor strategy and communications. Fourth, sure, okay. And fourth is approval of a contract with Piper Jaffray to provide special advisory services focusing on federal borrowing or grant programs, as well as public-private partnerships. The last 2 contracts that I just went through with Acacia and with Piper Jaffray, those are new roles that we identified in this RFP process, recognizing that one, we intend to be very active in our discussions and ongoing relationships with 4 rating agencies. And Acacia Financial, which is a New York-based firm, I should say has a New York-based office that we'll be working with, has identified this as one of their strong suits, and the committee recognized that and wants to work with them in that capacity. And in the matter of Piper Jaffray, MTA, as you know, we have the RIF loan for positive train control, and there are other federal programs either in place or contemplated to be in place that we would want to have an advisor that has particular expertise in this arena, has good familiarity and strong working relationships with representatives at DOT and FRA and FTA, and they do, as well as public-private partnerships, or P3 transactions. We often receive proposals or ideas from the financial community suggesting public-private partnerships, and we'd like to have an advisor with particular expertise in this arena to advise us, and that's why these 2 new roles were identified. We would be working with them on an as-needed basis, and they would bill us on an hourly basis. In the case of Public Resources Advisory Group team, as well as Mohanty Gargiulo, we negotiated fee structures that are basically a 2% increase over our incumbent advisors.
May I have a motion and a second? Are there any questions or comments? I have one.
Sure.
I think you mentioned that Acacia has a New York office but is not New York-based. Did you make that distinction?
I believe their headquarters is outside of Philadelphia, in that South Jersey, Philadelphia area, but their New York offices, they're the principal individuals that we'll be dealing with, and they're fully staffed here.
Okay. And they're staffed to your satisfaction?
Absolutely.
Anyone else? All in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? This item passes. Fifth.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is the approval of outside counsel. We're seeking board approval to add the law firm Harris Beach P. LLC to the panel of board-approved outside counsel. This approval is sought in connection with its representation of MTA and its agencies with respect to the procurement of an electricity supply contract to commence following the expiration of the current long-term agreement with the New York Power Authority on December 31st, 2017, and other energy-related matters. Staff also recommends that the board authorize MTA's entry into a retainer with the firm, which has extensive prior experience with respect to electricity supply contracts in New York and transactions with New York Power Authority.
A motion and second. Are there any questions or comments on this fifth item? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? This item carries.
We have
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Merdler abstains. The next item is the MTA's 2017 budget and 2017 to 2020 financial plan adoption materials. Bob Foran is here to present it.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. On your iPad, you have under recent documents the electronic version of this report, and that's what I'm going to be speaking from, primarily the staff summary. As we state, the purpose is to secure MTA Board adoption of the accompanying 2017 final proposed budget and the four-year financial plan 2017 to 2020, which includes approving the 2016 final estimate and plan adjustments, and authorization of budget and plan adjustments, including MTA efficiency targets, policy actions, and MTA re-estimates as set forth in this staff summary. The document summarizes the November plan presented to the board for information purposes at the November board meeting, which projects ending cash balances of $260 million in 2016, $23 million in 2017, $17 million in 2018, and $32 million in 2019, with a projected cash deficit of $319 million in 2020. There are no changes from the November plan. If you turn to page 1-2 of the staff summary, we'll highlight the November plan. The November plan continues to hold projected fare and toll increases of 4% in 2017 and 2019, the equivalent of 2% per year. The 2017 increase being planned for mid-March is being changed from a 4% revenue yield to a 4% price increase, saving customers approximately $26 million a year, or $94 million over the planned period. This November plan, to be the December plan and voted upon, increases support for the capital program. It retains the $566 million of debt service included in the July plan from Hudson Yards lease securitization and lower interest rates, both realized and projected. We continue to identify additional savings, and we are reducing expenses previously considered uncontrollable. The MTA has raised the targeted level of savings in every year since 2010. We expect to meet the 2016 target of nearly $1.6 billion, and total annually recurring savings of the programs initiated since 2010 are now expected to approach $2 billion by 2020. Had the MTA not achieved these recurring savings, fare and toll increases totaling 20% would have been required to cover these expenses. The November plan includes service and customer experience investments from prior plans, such as the expansion projects, 2nd Avenue Subway, the Number 7 extension, Fulton Street Transit Center. It has operating support for capital and other projects, including New York City station enhancements, installation and maintenance of real-time information displays, maintenance of the B Division countdown clocks, automated passenger counters, and Wi-Fi access in all New York City Transit underground stations. The November plan also provides an additional $395 million in important maintenance and operations, customer experience, and service support investments over the plan period. The bottom line is these changes, reestimates, and recommendations result in net improvements to MTA's financial position and forecast over the plan period and a reduction in the 2020 deficit from $371 million to $319. We are recommending to the Board that the Board adopt the 2017 final proposed budget and four-year financial plan 2017 to 2020, which includes the 2016 final estimate and plan adjustments. The approval of this plan will supersede prior Board plan approvals for this period. Note that the projected 2017 and 2019 fare and toll increase proposals will require separate Board action in advance of those dates. We recommend you authorize staff under the guidance of the CEO and the CFO to take actions to implement the policy actions set forth in the plan. To authorize staff to accelerate $280 million of future planned committed to capital contributions into 2016. This acceleration is to be made at the discretion of the CEO and the CFO. Authorize staff to use debt service savings during the plan period to make additional committed to capital contributions of $566 million to the 2015-2019 capital program. Authorize staff to release the unexpended 2016 general reserve, $145 million, at the discretion of the CEO and the CFO, and they may be used and applied for reducing the unfunded pension liability associated with the Long Island Railroad additional plan. Authorize technical adjustments to MTA budgets and forecasts of a non-material nature in the February plan. Authorize adjustments of MTA budgets and forecasts to reflect labor settlements approved from time to time. Approve additional actions, including budget and cash management, as has been done in past budget adoptions, such as advancing bridge and tunnel operating surplus, use of MTA MRT2 corporate account monies, use of payroll mobility tax and the replacement funds and MTA aid. Authorize the CEO, the Chief Financial Officer, or their designees acting under Section 1266 of the Public Authority Law to enter into interagency loan agreements among the MTA and its affiliates and subsidiaries, to use the stabilization reserve for prompt payment of contractual obligations, and with regard to the Government Accounting Standards Board contributions that have been made, the Treasurer is authorized to use the GASB accounts to fund intra-agency loans as well as inter-agency loans. This concludes my presentation on the 2017 final proposed budget and the 2017-2020 financial plan.
Before I ask if any board member has any questions, first I want to apologize to all the members of the Finance Committee. There was an incident on the Metro-North line today which required me to take a stroll through the beautiful borough of the Bronx to then try to catch the New York City subway to come down here today. So this was the second longest trip from Westchester County I've taken in my life. First time was when they had the fire under the tracks. That took me about 45 minutes longer than today. So I apologize again. So I just want to know, why I was late. With that, I would ask if any members of the committee have any questions. If not, do I have a motion? Who's that? You have a question? Motion? Second? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Doug?
Okay. Next, we move to report and information items. The first being PeopleSoft 9.2 upgrade report, and YL Hibry is here to present that.
Yes. Thank you, Doug. When a major upgrade is completed, we take that accomplishment for granted. In fact, a large number of large-scale software implementations actually fall short of their promise. The PeopleSoft software deployed at the MTA dates back to 2009 when the BSC was initiated. It was recently de-supported and was no longer compatible with current release browsers. In August 2014, the MTA Board approved the competitive procurement for IBM to work with the MTA to help upgrade PeopleSoft. The workload was split between IBM and the MTA staff, 70-30. We had two main phases: human resources, which went live December 2015, and financials and procure to pay, which went live 3 weeks ago. These were followed by a pension go-live that consolidated a satellite pension system into mainstream PeopleSoft at the BSC. Subject matter experts from all the agencies were involved in defining the new system. When a customization of the system was necessary, a great deal of restraint was exercised to make sure that changes were indeed beneficial. With active support from the agencies, we have been able to implement a much more functionally rich system while at the same time cutting out wasteful customizations. This is a far cry from the initial go-live when there was a great deal of resistance. The remaining slides discuss the benefits and set the stage for new initiatives for 2017 and beyond. We focused initially between 2011 and 2015 at the BSC. We focused on stabilizing and building trust through transparency, customer service, accuracy in our transactions, and standardization. That foundation opened the door to functionality improvements starting in 2016. These include a much better portal, informative recruitment pages, mobile access, better training, and a marketplace for internal clients to easily order certain commodities, and the much-needed integration of pension and PeopleSoft. We did that while we tried to standardize, simplify as much as possible, and deliver savings. Areas of improvement were not randomly selected. We chose areas that experience high volumes. For example, employees regularly check their pay advices, they download benefit forms, they look up their own training or their own staff's training. We made that all available through the portal. Bidders and suppliers regularly transact with procurement and accounts payable, and we try to move those elements of information to the portal as well. We process thousands of receipts and requisitions and approve those, and we receive 50,000 resumes every single month. This is an example of an employee portal. This is my own portal. I can check on my own training and progress against compliance training, for example, also my own team and the training that they have registered for. My context-sensitive benefit forms, we have 170 benefit forms, but we only display the ones on the upper left that are relevant to me. It also shows pay dates if I was interested in checking that, among other information. This is an example of a portal for bidders and suppliers. Currently, we invite 1,000 bidders and suppliers every day since we've just went live. Bidders and suppliers can register for the categories that they are interested in competing in, and when they do so, they can see procurement events show up when they log into their PeopleSoft portal, which is customized for them. This is another example of the recruitment page for someone who's interested in a programming title at the MTA. This particular individual has applied to 6 positions. One has been filled already, and we tell that candidate on their portal. 5 are still under active consideration. And there are other postings that he or she has applied to, but those applications have not been completed yet, and they can check the status of their applications online. This is what accessing PeopleSoft on your phone or on a tablet would look like. Now you can enter a receipt for a good or a service that you have received so that we can start processing payment. You can approve requisitions if you're out of the office. And as before, you could check on your pay advice and other information that's readily available. The past approach of using the train-the-trainer method did not serve us well at all. We now deliver training in several different formats. In addition to classroom training, we have task-focused training modules that are animations that within minutes can get an employee ready to perform a specific task. These allow you to see the steps first, then you can practice them in a safe environment that does not update the production database. When you're confident, you can go into the production environment and enter those transactions. And finally, you can save those instructions or print them out for future reference. Support from agency management, especially from procurement leaders, allow us to achieve a 92% attendance rate during those classes. We've also made a marketplace available. And a marketplace through PeopleSoft allows authorized users to use their own login to order, in this case, supplies. We're going live with an interface to the supplies, to the Staples website, where by Thursday, employees can order their office supplies electronically. We'll receive the invoice at the BSC and process it accordingly. After that, we're adding CDW for IT-type purchases, Grainger, Dell, HP, and Verizon. Integrating the pension system into PeopleSoft was a major accomplishment. Prior to this upgrade, the pension system was in a completely separate PeopleSoft environment. It received updates from payroll and from the timekeeping system to show service as well as contributions. With bringing the pension system into PeopleSoft, we've also added calculations and reports that are actuary approved. And we built a platform that allows us to add additional pension systems from very expensive mainframe platforms into PeopleSoft, which is much more maintainable. Overall, after a go-live like this one, we typically receive a high volume of phone calls for support or for anomalies that employees have discovered in the system. We've established a hierarchy and a prioritization method so that all of these requests are answered efficiently and effectively so that employees can be productive right away. The benefits of upgrading PeopleSoft brought us a simple, more intuitive system. It has more functionality, and it's more standard in how we process transactions across the MTA. Those two features have allowed us to deliver savings to the budget and allow us to have a system that's a lot more maintainable. This concludes my report.
Mr. Chairman, if I could make a few comments. Sure. I really want to express my appreciation to everyone who's worked on the upgrade project, and particularly to recognize Weil and his leadership, the leadership provided by personnel throughout the agencies, and then all of those people involved who worked hard through holidays and over weekends to help make sure that we had a smooth transition. There's still work to be done in terms of stabilizing the system and addressing post-implementation issues as they arrive. But I really do want to commend the hard work and dedication of all those who've been involved. This was the first major system upgrade since the BSC took over the operation of shared services in 2011. It's a milestone that results from active collaboration that exemplifies what I believe is really a cultural shift toward embracing change within the organization. I have seen people working together, trying to do things in a different but simpler way. And they're able to achieve what Weil had up there of three key goals for us: simplicity, standardization, and achieved sustainable savings. So again, to all those who worked the weekends, worked late nights, worked through holidays, I just really want to express our appreciation for what you've done and what you're going to continue to do. So, Weil, thank you.
We have one more information item. That's the contract change order report for the third quarter of 2016. And that's also included in the capital contract change order that is reported to the CPOC committee. Next, we have procurements, and Angel Barbosa is here.
Thank you, Doug. For headquarters, there are 5 competitive procurements for personal and miscellaneous services for a grand total of $6.2 million. Real estate brokerage services, the first item is for real estate brokerage services, 2 zero-based contracts. There is an item for parking management services at $4.9 million. A third item is for economic forecasting services at $244,000. And the last item is homeless outreach services at $975,000. Chair.
Any questions?
I noticed the homeless outreach portion only applies to the commuter rails. What about the transit stations?
It's a separate contract.
Is it a different company?
Yeah, it's a different company. Yes.
Thank you.
We have a motion? Second? All those in favor?
For Metro North, there are two procurements for a grand total of $3.8 million. One is a non-competitive sole source procurement for a miscellaneous service contract jointly with Long Island Railroad for maintenance to the Protect chemical detection system installed in Grand Central Terminal and Penn Station for Metro North and Long Island Railroad for a total of $1.9 million. The second is a competitive procurement jointly with New York City Transit for a modification to extend the miscellaneous service contract for pest control services for 18 months and for additional funding of $1.8 million. Chairman.
Any questions? Motion? Second? All those in favor?
There are no Long Island Railroad items. Next up, we have New York City Transit and MTA bus operations. For New York City Transit and MTA bus operations, there are three procurements for a grand total of $257 million. One is a non-competitive procurement for a total of $11 million for an approval of a 3-year miscellaneous service contract for rail grinding services. Loran utilizes its own personnel and its own proprietary equipment in that service. Two are for competitive procurements for RFPs for a total of $246 million. One is for a 43-month RFP for the design and construction of the Clifton Car Repair Shop in the borough of Staten Island for a total of $165 million. The latter is for an RFP totaling $80.7 million for the replacement of two elevated structures. That's the Bushwick Cut and the bridge located over the New York and Atlantic Railway on the Myrtle Line, and the construction of a car inspection facility at the Fresh Pond Rail Yard in Queens. Chairman.
Any questions? Motion? Second? All those in favor? Thank you.
For bridges and tunnels, we have two competitive procurements for a grand total of $67.5 million. One is a modification of a personal service contract for a 2-year extension for additional work to implement open road tolling on the Robert F. Kennedy Bridge and funding for a total of $2.5 million. The second is for an RFP for a total of $65 million, which includes stipends of $300,000 for design build services for flood mitigation at the Hewlett Carey Tunnel and Queens Midtown Tunnel for 2 years and 6 months. Chairman.
Any questions? Motion? Second? All those in favor? Thank you.
There are no items for FinTech. That concludes procurements.
Okay. You'll find MTA consolidated financial and operational reports beginning on page 166. And now we'll move to real estate.
Thank you, Doug. Hi, everybody. We have 3 action items for you this month. One for a lease at Grand Central and 2 for taxi dispatch offices and parking spaces at Long Island Railroad stations. They're described in your staff summaries. If there are no questions, I would ask for your authorization. Yes. Yes, sir.
Frey.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question on the Grand Central action item. I saw the drawing. I think I recognize the major landmarks in Grand Central. I don't quite know where this is. For example, I saw one side of the drawing that had both an escalator up and down and stairs up and down. I don't know where that is.
Well, it's easy to get disoriented down there because there's a lot of construction going on with MTACC coming in and so on. But these are the central pavilions they're symmetrical on either side. They were, if you're familiar with them, they were dishes in Irving Farm. And they are circular, and they have sort of faux terrazzo around them. We've been working with Beyer Blinder Bell, which is the original architects for the renovation, to try to rationalize the seating there and the circulation. So they'll be squared off, as you can see in the renderings, change the lighting, we're pretty badly in need of a refresh down there. It's been, 20 years, and we think both from point of view of aesthetics and the efficiency of the space that it's going to be much better.
Well, forgive me. I know where the escalators are. I know where the stairs are. They're not exactly in the same place. Right. They're not exactly in the same place. Does this go through the space where we're currently excavating for east side access?
One of them is in front of where the escalators will be going down. If you were coming down the stairs from from the main concourse, you would end up at either end, and then you would have these circular pavilions at either end in front of you.
This is the western or the eastern one?
Well, they're actually both in your book. One of them is a chart item because the selection was more straightforward, but they're both going to be done contemporaneously.
To avoid confusion, Jeff, maybe in the future we could have space formerly occupied by and give the name. Maybe some of us would.
Okay, that's a good suggestion. Thanks.
Any other questions? We need a motion? Second? All those in favor? Now we need a motion for the Finance Committee to adjourn. Do we have a motion? Second?
Second.
Finance Committee is adjourned. Thank you.
I like it.